Welcome. I was watching, just kind of scrolling one day, and I saw a guy, and he was making something he called Frito pie chili, walnut chili, and his name is Turnip Vegan. And this guy, he's really fun to watch. He's has his own greenhouse that he built, and he's very outdoorsy. Hi, Lydia. So he goes out and picks herbs from his greenhouse, and I can relate to him because you can't see it, but right outside, I'll turn it around. Maybe you can see it. Right outside my room here, I have a huge garden, and in my garden, I have a big herb garden. And one day might take you out there and pick some herbs, but I can really relate to Turnip Vegan because, and that's not his name. I can't remember what his name is because he goes out and picks stuff to use in his videos, which I do too. But the only thing is his recipes have things that I don't use. Like I said, he uses oil and he uses coconut cream and some vegan ingredients that I just don't use because I try to keep things whole food, plant-based, no oil. But there's enough in there that I could take his basic recipe and make my own version of it. So it's a walnut chili Frito pie. So he used Fritos. Well, I made my own Fritos. Now, how do you make Fritos? Well, they're thin, credible tortillas that I cut and I put in my air fryer. This is my air fryer basket. I sprinkled a little bit of lemon juice or lime juice you could use and some sea salt. And now they're just crunchy. They kind of look like, I cut them in the shape so they would look more like Fritos. But I can use those as a topping because they're not fried. So a pack of Fritos is vegan, but excuse me, they're deep fried in oil. So I'll try to avoid that kind of stuff. So we're going to make this whole thing walnut chili. And if you've ever made a walnut-based meat substitute, it's pretty good. I used to make walnut cauliflower tacos. And this kind of reminded me of that because the recipe called for walnuts and cauliflower. So I have cauliflower and walnuts. And I'm going to start, I have to turn my back to you to drain these walnuts. This is 2 cups of walnuts that have been soaking. They've been soaking in water for about 4 hours. So after 4 hours, that softens them up. And what I have to do first is I'm taking a half a cup of just raw cauliflower and these soaked walnuts, and I'm putting them in my food processor, which is off to the side here. You see it, it's kind of in the distance. And I'm just going to put these walnuts and cauliflower in my food processor, and I'm just going to process it for like 30 seconds. It's less than 30 seconds, but I can see that it's kind of turning into a puree already. So I know that I don't want it to be a puree. I just want it to be crumbled. So when instructions say to do things, you have to know your own equipment. And my equipment that I know pretty well, the Vitamix food processor, is very powerful. So I'm pretty sure that the intention is to have it look like crumbles because he calls it crumbles in his recipe. In fact, he says 20 to 30 seconds, but he doesn't say what it's supposed to look like. But I'm assuming, since I've made things like this before, you don't want it to be pureed because then it becomes like a butter. So we'll just say that it's meant to be a crumble. So then I'm going to put this crumble of walnuts and cauliflower in my skillet, and we're going to brown it. Now, in his recipe, Turnip Vegan says to use like 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil. Pretty typical that people who use oil use a lot of it. So it's like it starts with a bunch of oil, but we're not doing that. We don't have to do that. We can just put in some nice hot skillet and put our food in the nice hot skillet, and it'll work fine. So that's all that goes in here for now is the soaked walnuts and cauliflower. So if you've ever had any kind of dish like that, I'm going to get my regular spatula here in a minute. And I can hear it kind of sizzling. You want it to be nice and hot. So in the past, I've made a thing called walnut cauliflower tacos, and they were kind of similar, but the walnut pieces were a little bit bigger because that was the filling for the tacos was this walnut cauliflower mixture. It wasn't quite this finely crumbled, but this is not bad. There's still crumbles. I see Leanna, Tammy, Cynthia, bunch of people on here. Good. I made this for everybody. Most of my cooking live streams that I'm doing all the time, they're for the paid subscribers. And so I've been doing for people that have a paid subscription Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And so when I was doing this today, I thought I'm just going to do this for everyone because I don't know how it's going to turn out. This may be a big flop. So let's just experiment and have some fun. I like to do that. I have to really play around with people's recipes all the time because they usually don't fit exactly what I'm doing. So I will take a recipe and make modifications to it and try to make it into something that I feel comfortable eating. So this is the first step. We're going to let this brown, and then let's see, I have to actually follow these instructions. Just when it starts to brown, we're going to add some tomato paste and some vegetable broth and some seasoning. So this is like and I can tell this mixture will burn very easily. So watch your heat. I can already see it's browning nicely, but because it's mostly nuts, if you put your nuts in a pan or the oven, they will brown before you know it, and you can burn them easily. So just be cautious. See, I can see a lot of smoke. You can just tell by how it's cooking that it's cooking really fast. It's browning the walnuts very fast. But that will give it flavor. This step here, even without oil, this is browning the walnuts and kind of toasting them. And when you toast nuts, the flavor really comes out really good. Let's see, we've got Stacy and Audria. I think it's Audria, Cynthia. Good to see you guys on here. Nice to have a lot of people. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and add the tomato paste and vegetable broth. And I think this is a really quick recipe. I got up this morning before I went walking, and I knew I was going to make this, so I soaked the walnuts. I put a couple cups of walnuts in with water and soaked them because it said soak them for 4 hours. And then I cut up some of these vegetables and I set them on a tray, my tray here. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go walk my hour, and then I'm going to come back and do a bunch of stuff, and then I'll do this video. So it didn't take long at all for me to do that. Okay, I have 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm going to put half of them in here. And then I'm going to put approximately a 1/4 cup of vegetable broth that I've already got made up. You hear it sizzle? That's the kind of heat we want here. We want it to actually be browning. We don't want it to just be in some kind of lukewarm pan. And that's going to give it this flavor from the tomato paste, the walnuts, the cauliflower, a little bit of vegetable broth. And we're going to do this for a couple minutes, and we're going to set this aside, and we're going to add this a little bit later to the rest of our chili. But this is what I mean by the walnut chili. The walnuts are going to provide texture, and some people like to say that walnuts taste like meat, or they give a meaty taste to chili or taco meat or whatever, taco filling. And I like it too. I just haven't made this in a long time. I really feel like I should get back to that cauliflower walnut taco filling that I used to make. One time I made that for a cooking demo. And I had like tortillas, and I had the cauliflower walnut mixture, and I had different vegetables, and I made all these really good tacos. And, most of the people there were not plant-based, and they liked it. They said it was really good. I like that kind of stuff. All right, so I think this is mixed pretty well. Let's see. And then it says to cook it for 5 minutes, but I have to add all my spices. Okay, so what kind of spices? Well, I have all my spices here on my little tray here. And Turnip Vegan, all he said to use in his was, he said, use a packet of chili seasoning. Well, I don't know where he's from, but I don't really have anything like that. I don't have a package of any kind of seasoning mix. So I'm going to use my own seasoning mix. I have some red chili from Santa Fe. I'm going to put a teaspoon of that in there. This is from the Santa Fe School of Cooking, and it's just medium, authentic red chili powder. I'm going to put, about a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. I'm not a big fan of smoked paprika. That's strong. To use too much of it because it can be overwhelming. It can be too strong. I'm going to use about half a teaspoon of coriander, ground coriander, and I think I'll use about a half a teaspoon of cumin. I don't want to have any too strong flavors. And then last but not least, I'm going to add, some Chimayo chili powder. Chimayo is a little town in New Mexico, and they grow Chimayo chilies. And you can only call it Chimayo chilies if it's from Chimayo. It's heirloom. It's a special thing. And this little bag was like $16, and you can only get it. Like this was from a little store in Chimayo. I was there not too long ago. So it really makes a huge difference. But so I'll write all this down. When I post the recipe later on, I'll do a post with the recipe. On the bottom of this, my progress report or whatever I post today, I'll be sure and get it to everybody. Looks like about 18 people are watching. Now this really makes it good. I can smell the smoked paprika, the cumin, I can still smell the nuts, but I could smell those chilies, that red chili. And if I wanted to, I could put a little bit of green chili powder in here. I have some green chili powder. Let me put just maybe a fourth of a teaspoon of that in, maybe half a teaspoon. I'll put half a teaspoon. This is another one of those Santa Fe School of Cooking chilies. I get those whenever I go there, and they last me for quite a while. The grocery store chili powder is just nothing. There's nothing to it. It's not that good, usually, like the ones that are mass produced. When you start using really high quality chili powders, you'll notice a world of difference. You really will. So if you go to some kind of gourmet shop or online, like go to the Santa Fe School of Cooking and order some of their chili powders. I see Stacy's on here now, and looks like same number of people. So I hope if you're joining me, you want to learn how to make a healthier version of Frito pie, one that has a walnut chili and some corn tortillas that are not fried. And I even made a couple of sauces, cheese sauce and a cashew sauce that we can put on top. Okay, that's good enough. So here's my mixture. Okay, this is the walnut cauliflower mixture that has tomato paste and all those chili powders in it. It smells wonderful. So now we're going to make the easy part. And this part is, the part where we're going to put our beans and our liquids and everything in. And then we're going to go back and add that other part in a few minutes. So in this pot, we have tomato paste, diced tomatoes, kidney beans, and black beans. So I'm going to put in the tomatoes. This is a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. Common everyday thing. Some veggie broth, a couple cups. We might add a little bit more later. I think this is supposed to be on the thicker side. I don't think it's supposed to be super thin. Looks like Joanne has joined. Hi, Joanne. So this is about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Remember, we added tomato paste to this mixture down here already. So we had 4 tablespoons to begin with, but we added some already. Make sure my light's on. And it's getting hot in here. I had my husband turn the air conditioning back on the other day. When was it? Saturday, I was in here cooking, and it had been cold, so we had the heat on. And I'm in here just sweating and thinking, I'm dying. It's so hot in here. Well, the air conditioning was on. Okay, and then we have, I forgot to saute the onions. Well, great. There we go. No sauteed onions. So we were late on sauteing the onions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this liquid out. and I'm going to put it in a bowl, and I'm going to saute my onions. I have plenty of bowls around. That will not take long. All right, so if you're cooking and you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. So I just put all that stuff in this bowl that I had handy, and now I'm going to saute my onions and garlic. So if you do something that's out of sync with your recipe, you can always recover. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to put my onions and garlic in here. I was supposed to do that before I added the cauliflower and walnut. And this is kind of the problem that you might run into if you're making things for the first time. And making things for the first time in front of people is probably not the best idea in the world, but I don't care. You know, when I started doing all this live streaming for Substack, one of the things I said to myself was I was going to go live 3 days a week, and I was not going to do any kind of fancy, curated, got to hire somebody to film me, complicated thing. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go live and cook what I'm going to cook anyway. I'm thinking of things to cook for you too, but they're things that I need to have around my house to follow the 21-day challenge. Let's see. This makes life fun, Dorothy said. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that way you kind of see real life because I'm just cooking it in real time. And if you're in a hurry and you don't want to watch me cook something in real time, I understand. Don't watch me. There are lots of people that produce quick videos all the time. They're producing these 30-second reels, and it takes for somebody, I'm going to put this on and cover it so I'm not getting so much steam, to have a 30-second or a minute-long reel where you see all the clips of all these steps to make the food. It's very quick, but it takes a long time. Hi, honey. Come here, say hi. This is Tori. Tori's the baby. Come here, say hi. Tori's my baby. She's 8 months old. Hey, honey. She's my sweetheart. She's the girl, and she has to deal with the big boys all the time, and they kind of run her ragged. I'm going to wash my hands. But my dogs are very clean. In fact, we gave them all baths this week. I like real time. I don't like reels. Hey, great. Let's see. I love that you are real. We all make mistakes in the kitchen. Yeah, so when you make a mistake, you just kind of figure out what you can do. So by adding a little bit of water, that's helping cook my onions and garlic down quicker, and they're not burning, and I can put the lid on and not get a steam bath here. Okay, so anyway, that was my baby girl. We gave the dogs baths this week, so they're all super clean. And they sit on the couch with us, they jump up on the bed, but they sleep in their own beds. Okay, so we got the onions in here. We're going to put the rest of the ingredients in here in just a minute. So if you make a mistake, just roll with it. It's hot. Roll with it and don't worry about it. That's how real life is. And I sometimes, I make recorded videos. So if I'm making something that takes several hours, then I'll do a recorded video where I have to pause it and then wait for something to cook. But when it's something this simple, there's no reason to do that. Okay, so I've got my onions are doing well now. So now I'm going to go back and add that other stuff that I took out, which was just veggie broth and some canned tomatoes. So why wouldn't I just throw the onions in, you might think? Well, why did she have to take all that out and saute the onions separately? Well, it's like anything else. If you add raw onions to this tomatoes and stock, you'll taste raw onions. Once it's finished cooking, it's not going to taste good. It's just going to taste like tomato sauce with raw onions, and raw onions don't taste all that great inside your soup. That's why it's good to saute your vegetables before you add the soup broth and everything. So now we're going to add the pinto beans and kidney beans. So in this recipe, it's 2 cans of black beans and 1 can of kidney beans. And I'll show you exactly what I put in here. I buy this brand at the grocery store that I go to, it's called Made With. I don't know if everybody can get that brand, but I like these because they're organic. The sodium level is pretty low, 125 milligrams for half a cup. But the thing I like about them best is they taste really good. They're not overcooked. Sometimes I've gotten canned beans and they're very mushy almost. Like, I don't like the texture of them. I don't like the mouthfeel of them. They're salty. They're soft. They just don't really do anything for me. So I'm trying to avoid those kind of beans. And I found this brand was really good. Now we can also add some hot peppers. So I'm going to do that. I have a variety of hot peppers that I can add. Let me get you over here. So I have some, these are kind of mild jalapenos. These are some serrano chilies. They're pretty spicy. I think I'm going to add one of the milder jalapeno peppers. I had to pick all the peppers in my garden recently because it was supposed to freeze, a hard freeze. Well, it really didn't. But so now I have tons of peppers, and I'm going to throw the peppers in with the beans and the tomatoes and the veggie broth. And that's pretty much it. We just have to cook this for a few minutes. We're going to cook it for 5 minutes, and then we're going to add the walnut cauliflower stuff. And then that's kind of it until we, just cook it a little bit longer, as long as we want to. But we don't have to cook it long to do a little experiment and see how it's going to taste. Okay, so I cut up my jalapeno. I'm going to stick it in the pot of beans. And while this is going, we'll talk about the 21-day challenge as well. But I just want to get this bubbling so that I know it's cooking. So I've got two things going. I have this pot here, which has got the beans, 2 cans of black beans, 1 can of kidney beans. And I'm sure you could use any kind of beans you have. If you have pinto beans and you don't like kidney beans, you use whatever you have. We're going to bring this to a boil and let it simmer. And then in the other pan, you saw me make the walnut, cauliflower, all the spices, a little veggie broth, and tomato paste. And I can tell you right now that actually, it smells really good. Let me taste it. Yeah, it's got a real kick to it from all my chili powders. That's going to be good. And it has a really nice kind of I don't know how to describe it, a really good texture, like a nice meaty, I hate to use the word meaty, but that's kind of what it is. I need to get a bowl from down here. Excuse me for a second. Should have got this before I started. It was after that. Anyway, that's what we're going to use to plate it in. And so what other components do I have? Like I said earlier, I have a cheese sauce. This was in my freezer from the last time I made macaroni and cheese or something, and I made cashew cheese sauce, and it was frozen from June. And I took it out and I defrosted it. I added a tiny bit of water to it, and it's perfect. It still tastes really good. It has a perfect texture. And then I made a cashew dressing, and I'll post the recipe for this. I put some cilantro in it, so it's kind of a pale green, but it tastes really good. So I'm going to use it as a topping. And I'll be posting that recipe too. Okay, so it's starting to come to a boil. I hear some activity in there. And the thing that I like to do with this kind of recipe is cook the tomatoes down. Because when you first put them in the can, from the can in the pot, they tend to be kind of, great big chunks like this. And you can take them and smash them against the side of the pan. But the longer this concoction cooks, the more those will cook down. Okay, so let's let this cook for like a couple more minutes, and then we can throw in the other ingredients. And then in the meantime, let's talk for a minute about the 21-day challenge. So I think 22 people are watching. How many of you are following the 21-day challenge? If you are, comment, yes, me, and that's fine. If you don't want to comment, that's okay too. This is the second week. This is week 2. So we've been through 1 week. So 1 week of following the Daily Dozen. And the Daily Dozen is from the book How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. So every day in the Daily Dozen, we check off the foods we've eaten and have we've exercised and had plenty of water to drink. So a lot of you are following along with the 21-day challenge, and that's great. I do it for 21 days just to stay on track, to get back on track, and to encourage new people to eat whole food, plant-based, oil-free food. And if you haven't ever done that before, why would you do it? I'm sure some of you that are maybe watching me that don't normally watch me, because this is a free live to everybody, so anybody could be watching this. If you've never tried the whole food, plant-based, oil-free way of life, why would you do it? Well, there's a bunch of information out, like the movie Forks Over Knives, which is what a lot of people see, or What the Health. So some of it is just for better health and longevity. So many people are suffering from illnesses, diseases that may be helped by different way of eating. And I know there are lots and lots of theories and lots of different programs out there for everybody who says, oh yeah, plant-based is great. There are 10 people that say, oh, plant-based eating is awful. Hi, Aline. Hi, Nancy. So you're never going to find people all in agreement with what you're doing, whatever it is. If it's omnivore, keto, carnivore, vegan, whole food, plant-based, anywhere you go, there are going to be people that are detractors that are going to say, no, that doesn't work. That's not good for you. So I don't care about any of that. 5.5 years ago, I started eating the whole food, plant-based way, like I showed you, the Daily Dozen from Dr. Michael Greger from the book How Not to Die. And the reason I did it is because I was about 30 pounds heavier, and my cholesterol was high, my blood pressure was high, and I was not feeling good. And I was thinking, and I was eating, more vegan food, plant-based food, but not the healthiest type. So I kept thinking, there's got to be a better way. What am I doing wrong? So I started following the Daily Dozen. It was so simple: eating beans, grains, fruits, vegetables, greens, berries, few nuts, lots of water, exercise every day, 90 minutes. That's simple. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this every single day for 21 days and see what happens. And I did. And at the end of 21 days, my cholesterol dropped from 211 to 171. And the other numbers dropped too. So I thought, oh, this has never happened. And I wasn't taking medication at the time. So then I didn't lose much weight the 21 days. I lost maybe a couple pounds. But, I've stayed with it for 21 days. So I thought, well, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to do this for another 21 days. And so anyway, long story short, I kept doing it over and over until I lost that 30 pounds. And here it is, 5.5 years later. I still have kept most of it off. I've, gained back 5 pounds of it over the last year. But I've already lost 2 pounds in a week on the 21-day challenge. So I'm getting close back to where I was at my optimal spot. So it does work. Okay, so that's why I do what I do. My health is great. I had a full cardiac workup recently this year. Everything from stress echocardiogram to calcium score. And my cardiologist that I had gone to, that I had seen before, because I had, years ago, I had open heart surgery for something not related to any lifestyle thing. It was like probably a genetic thing. And I had a cardiologist for a while. Well, I hadn't seen him in years, but I wanted a full workup. So I went to see him, and he gave me all these different tests. And he said, my cholesterol has never stayed at 170. It kind of goes up and down. It hovers around 180, sometimes 190. So I've never been able to get it that low again. So, I'm thinking that mine could have a hereditary kind of a basis. But he told me, he said, no, I'm not worried about your cholesterol level. But if your calcium score is close to 100, which is what I suspect it will be, this is what he told me. He said, I suspect your calcium score will be around 100, which is average for your age. Then we're going to put you back on statins, because I used to be on them years ago. And when my calcium score came back, lo and behold, it was like 6. And he said, oh, your calcium score is outstanding. Not a problem at all. So he said, you don't have to be on statins. And then all my other test results came back great. The cardiac, the EKG stress test, I was in there on the treadmill, and they kept upping the speed, and I was going and going and going, and I went for a long time. He said, "Well, most people don't go that long." So I was kind of smiling like, "Yes, I did it." So anyway, long story short on that too, my cardiac testing was good, and I'm not taking blood pressure medicine anymore. Not at all. And I do use stem cell patches, and I think that is the one thing that's helped a lot with my blood pressure. So some people asked me about it when I mentioned it the other day. If you want to know about my patches, and they're not a drug, they're not transdermal, send me an email, because I can never look back and find your messages. My email address is juliadunaway@gmail.com. Julia Dunaway, DUNAWAY @gmail.com. If you send me an email, I'll send you like a 3-minute video to explain how they work, and then you can decide if you want them. But to me, they're life-changing, because I was taking that blood pressure medicine for decades. And even though I was doing everything you're supposed to do, eating low sodium, plant-based, no oil, low cholesterol, walking every day, every health thing you could do, my blood pressure was still kind of high. And I was taking medicine. I quit taking medicine, and my blood pressure is always like 120/60. So I love that, not taking medicine. Anyway, I continue with the daily dozen no matter what, because it helped me achieve my goals. And I don't have any health problems, and I'm 71 years old, and I'm able to walk an hour a day or more, weightlift 3 days a week, keep up with people much younger than me. And so I feel really good. I think it's well worth it. Okay, so here's my mixture. Let me bring the camera over to it so you can see. You can kind of see that it's very thick. So it's got lots of thickness from this walnut cauliflower mixture. So we'll see. I'm kind of curious to see how this tastes. I see how it looks, and we are only supposed to cook it. It doesn't really say to cook it for an excessive period of time. So let me just take a little taste of it and see what I think about how long it should cook. Well, I definitely think it needs to cook a little bit longer, because I can taste the cauliflower still. I think as it cooks, the cauliflower grains of cauliflower will soften a little bit, but it's really good. It has a very delicious flavor. So does anyone have any questions about the 21-day challenge, about anything related to that? Now, we can we could also add a little bit of salt to this. I didn't bring any salt in here. I think it could use a little bit, but that's okay. I'm going to plate some up in just a minute or two. I'm going to plate some up so you could see how it's supposed to look. And then I'm going to let the rest of it continue to cook. There's nothing wrong with it, but I would say to cook it for another, say, 15, 20 minutes, but we don't have to do that to show you how it's going to look in the plate. We can just go ahead and do it. So then what I'm going to do with this, remember, it's a Frito pie. So I think the idea here is to keep it kind of thick. So it's thick like that. It's not supposed to be like a soup. It smells so good. I wish you could smell it. And then we're going to put some different things on it to give it that appearance of being some kind of a Frito pie dish. So remember, I said I have some different toppings. I have a little bit of cashew cheese sauce. And it's the same kind I would use for a lot of my different dishes. I've used this for nachos, macaroni and cheese, just anything that you use cashew cheese sauce for. Then I have some cashew dressing. So this is just like it's kind of a little thick, but we can still, it just gives it a little creaminess. But it has bell peppers, cilantro, and it has a few creamy things in it, or herby things in it, garlic. So it has some really good flavors. So I think that kind of gives it a little extra pizzazz. And then remember my Fritos, my version of Fritos over here. So our Frito pie is oil-free tortilla chips that have been air fried. So they don't have any oil, and they're crispy and they're delicious, and they just have a little lemon juice, and a little bit of salt. So we'll put that in there. I have some scallions, chopped up scallions. Then I have some cilantro, just a few leaves of cilantro. That gives it that. I think it would look really cool with a little bit more cheese on the top. I think that would make it look better. So I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of that on the top. And then last but not least, we can also put some kind of pretty rounds of red pepper on it just to give it a nice appearance. So I have all those. Remember, I said I had all those peppers from my garden, and I know for a fact that they're not super spicy. I don't know why, they're just not that spicy. So I'll just put those few right here on top. So there we have our walnut chili Frito pie. So in the true Frito pie, it's some kind of chili in a package, like there's a thing in New Mexico and Santa Fe called a walking Frito pie. And they take a bag of Fritos. It sounds really weird. And they put the chili in the bag of Fritos, and then they top it with cheese and onions and whatever. So this is like the chili, the Frito substitute is on top and the chili's on the bottom. And then the cheese sauce takes the place of cheese. And there you have it. Let's see. I don't have a real spoon. I'm using one of my measuring spoons. That's all I have in here. So how does it taste with all the cheese and the beans and everything? Let me see. It very much tastes like a Frito pie dish. It really does, because what it is the nuttiness of the walnuts gives it that kind of extra richness. And then all the good chili peppers and tomatoes and all the other stuff gives it tons of flavor. And then the crowning touch that's really good is the cashew cheese sauce, the sour cream or cashew cream, and then having the fresh herby vegetables on there makes it really good. So I think this is going to be great. It does need to cook a little bit longer, and I'll probably take a picture of this, scrape off the top, and put it back in too for a few more minutes. No harm done, because I have plenty of toppings left. No problem there. But if you're going to make it, let it cook a little bit longer. The longer it cooks, the better it is. I see Terry Kane has joined. So what did I make? I made the walnut chili Frito pie. And the longer it cooks, and I can already show you, you can tell that the walnut cauliflower mixture is starting to blend with all the other things now, where before you could kind of see it was a lot more grainy. And now if you look at it, oops, sorry about that. My hand slipped. You can see that it's melded in with the bean mixture. So there you go. That's what you want. You want it to cook down so that it all becomes one mixture, and it's not like little crumbles of walnuts and cauliflower. So we'll just keep it going for a few more minutes. I'll probably cook it another 10 minutes or so. So if you have any questions about this Frito pie, I think it's really delicious. I think it would be a big hit with families when you have people that are coming over to visit you and they're not sure about plant-based food and you want to make something that they would like. I think they would really like this. And I have to thank, again, remember, Turnip Vegan. He's a really cool guy, and he has all kinds of great recipes on his Facebook page and whatever, but he uses a lot of mushrooms, but he fries them. So I watch his stuff and I'm always thinking, man, I wish there was a way I could make that and not fry it. And I've used some really good mushrooms in stir fries, and I'll be doing that soon. But a lot of his dishes they're a lot more oily than what I make. But he has good ideas, like his Frito pie. So I made a version of it inspired by his recipe, substituting quite a few things. And also, he didn't explain what kind of chili seasoning he used. So I made up my own blend using my favorite chili powders. So I hope you guys make this. I hope you enjoy it. I think, and if you don't want to put all this stuff on top of it, let's say that you just want to have this with in a bowl and thin it out some, like put more veggie broth in it and make it more like a chili that you're going to eat. It would be absolutely delicious. Put a few scallions on top, a little cilantro, and just have it as a meal. I think you would really like it. You don't have to make it into this super rich version, but I like having some kind of different dishes like this for special occasions or for when people come over that are not plant-based, because I can eat plain food because that's what I'm used to. I can eat anything. I can eat beans and rice on a plate with some vegetables and I'm perfectly happy. But I have friends that their palates are kind of more used to fast food and restaurant food. And if it doesn't have a lot of flavor to it, to them, it tastes bland. It tastes fine to me, but it tastes bland to them. So I'm always trying to look at new ways to make things taste better. So if you're the 21-day challenge people and you're still coming along with me, keep going. We're going to keep going. And for 21 days, 2 more weeks, I'm doing great. Finally, it's like the first week I kept thinking I'm not going to lose any weight. I finally lost a couple pounds. So that inspires me to keep going more. And I've been eating really well. I've had lots of great dishes we've cooked on these live streams. So I'll keep it up. And unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to sign off. So I'll look one more time. Anybody have comments or questions, comments about your progress on the 21-day challenge, questions about this recipe or any recipes? Remember, if you're interested in the LifeWave patch, stem cell patch, send me an email, juliadunaway@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you a quick video to watch so you can understand more about them. And I will see you at the next video on Wednesday. Not sure what I'm going to cook yet. I'm thinking about doing the stir fry, but I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to make. I will let you know. All right, everybody. Bye-bye for now. Thanks a lot.